when you're building such a product, which is a little complex, not little, it's a very complex product, and it has a lot of hand holding to do with the base technical layers, multiple layers. Uh, as a product or a design product person or a designer, I don't think you should worry too much about the whether it is possible to implement or not. The reason being that if you go out thinking that, is this possible to visualize, you will always feel a constrained kind of, you'll always give a constrained kind of output. And I have personally been through that, so I can vouch for that. Here's an example of what we had worked on. So this is Airtel's open network site. Those who remember, Gali dena hai to do, but those who remember, this was launched long time back by Airtel, huge brand campaign. And I remember from these days that, there was the first thing that came through, and this came from the networks team, which manages the network at Airtel. They created an API which showed you, tower coverage. And they said, ki now build the visual elements around it. So we had an agency, one of the top agencies in the world, which did the design of it. I was more so doing the project and the product management piece of it, ensuring that the development team gets through and builds what is needed, etc. But the first thing that came through was that, this is the scope, that this is what we are going to do. And as we started showing it to the brand team, the ad campaign was being created and how it was being created and shown to public, and we were getting responses, and we were doing some research studies, we kind of realized, and this was just 1 week before launch, and I was speaking to the brand, and I said, people are not really concerned about you trying to show the overall coverage of India. What the person actually wants is कि उसके घर के बाजू में नेटवर्क अच्छा क्यों नहीं है, और उसके घर के बाजू में नेटवर्क अच्छा नहीं है तो मैं क्या करूं. So that kind of hit home, and I could relate so much with that, because we were doing this on Quora, and we found that people were like, can you give me that information? Ki, suppose for example, I'm living in Ville Parle and I'm having a network issue. How do I go about solving? Now, obviously, this is a private business, so all of this has its own, nuance to it. But if we had thought about it from the engineering perspective, that, what is feasible, what is possible, kya kar sakte hai, as opposed to kya karna chahiye, we would have a very, very poor product. I'm not saying this is a great product or great offering, but it would be much lesser than what it is right now. So that is one major takeaway for you. In case you get to work, if you're lucky enough to work on such a product or such an offering, where it is a complex mapping of data across, and if it's on maps, then even more complex, don't be constrained by what is engineering, from the engineering parlance, possible to do, because that will always be a limiter. I would say go ahead and, challenge your engineering team that, what more can be done, because this is what the user needs. That is a very important thing. Most people get lost in the engineering capabilities. Don't do that. Don't limit your worldview on that. That is point number one. The other point is that this exercise that Google is going through has two sides. A lot of you have, already got that point, but to those who did not submit, it is two parts, right? One is it has to build confidence that, you can go out and there are areas worth going to. But the other is it has to be careful in terms of not causing fear. Like, for example, I'll show you Map My India, what is doing. And I just saw it like 5 minutes ago. And I got a little scared myself. I live in Mumbai, and this is the map for Mumbai. Now, if I look at this map, and this is the first view that maybe I'm looking at the wrong map, but this is the first view, it looks really scary to me. It looks like I'm pretty much going to die if I go outside, which is not necessarily the case, but there is that challenge, right? Google has even more responsibility. So it has to be a fine balance between, building confidence and not farji wala confidence ki nahi, everything is fine, go out, enjoy, blah, blah, blah. But also ensuring that it doesn't cause unnecessary fear. And that comes from these colors and the technical terms, what they mean. So for example, Google shows certain colors, right? It shows orange, red, those kind of colors. What do those colors mean? The first time you load the layer, you have absolutely no idea what those colors mean. And again, coming back to my own example, when we were doing this open network thing, I remember a very interesting anecdote is that there were certain areas where the network coverage was actually bad. And I can understand the push and pull on this. And this came from the CEO himself. He said that we cannot show the word bad for our network. And you can understand why that is so, because if you're thinking from the company's perspective, that creates a massive PR issue. So you need to understand those nuances also, right? It's not just about, कि ठीक है जो है वो दिखा दो. It causes fear. In this case, if it is genuinely that bad, how can you show it in a way that it doesn't cause panic? But at the same time, don't hide that information. So I'm guessing Google is trying to abstract that information some way so that, people don't get scared, because India, agar tum dekhoge at a whole, it will look orange, which is scary. But if you see certain pockets, they are completely fine. So that balance is not easy to do. And that is created because of the way it's visualized and shown. But if you show certain scales and easy to understand mechanisms for people to get that information, they do try and understand. But if you don't show anything, which Google is unfortunately doing, it is not, I mean, I couldn't find what those scales mean. And I doubt anybody's going to go and read a blog post to understand that. If they understand it, they understand. If they don't understand it, they're going to interpret it the way they want to. Okay, so be very careful of the colors, but also the legends, the way they are shown and what is shown at what point. Both sides, you know, too much and too little, both of them. Hold on, just one thing in the chat. Whole India orange scary too deep. Yeah, it is. मतलब थोड़ा सा तो scary हो ही जाता है. If you see America तो और भी डर लगने वो red दिखता है. But yeah, I mean, there are both sides to it. That's what the point I want to get across. That if you get the opportunity to do this kind of visualization work, make sure that you understand the customer's psyche when they don't get information, what they think about your product. Make sure that the information is available, easily accessible, and it's not confusing. Okay? Then I want to come to, there is always a lot. So this is the point whereby, you know, what exists currently, and this comes from the engineering point, what exists currently is like the status quo. ठीक है, हमारे पास API से ये आ रहा है, हम ये दिखा सकते हैं, हमें BMC से इतना डेटा आ रहा है, हम यही दिखा सकते हैं. Now, if you do that, what you'll do is just a layer of what exists in like the public information that exists. I'll give an example of Google itself. Google till date for transit information in Delhi used to just show, and it used to do a fantastic job of showing the metro lines and, you know, train timings, which are all publicly available sources from DMRC. But I think Google has gone a step ahead and forced DMRC now to share live information, right? It might have happened from multiple sources, but I'm sure Google has a hand to play in it. Now you can see where each metro is at a particular time on each line, which is fantastic because that is what people don't know, right? You know, and especially at late night hours, like 10:30 in the night, you don't know because the information from public sources is vague, which is where Google comes to your rescue, right? You have it on your phone, you check it out, and you know, okay, the next metro is maybe 2 stops away. That's the fantastic offering that Google can